Hello everyone, welcome to Rural Route Homestead. I'm going to show you a little bit of my evening from yesterday and a little bit of my morning, and then we are going to talk about goats. We're going to have a few videos coming out about goats, different topics. If you want to know anything about goats, put it in the questions in the comments below, and if I know, I'll share. If I don't know, I'll ask my son and daughter-in-law, my husband, maybe we can answer your questions. Can I pet you? Can I pet you? Oh. Oh, goodness. Mercy. What are you doing? I wanted to get an early start this morning because we have to go to town and fill our bulk feeder. I did not get started as early as I would like to, but it all worked out and everybody has feed again. We really went through a lot of feed during the Arctic blast, but I wanted to make sure that everyone stayed warm, and they did. In thinking about what I just said on the last voiceover, I realized we did have one casualty through the Arctic blast. We had a little buckling that had recently been weathered, and he didn't take it well. He got some sort of respiratory illness. We were treating him, and he was in the building where you see our goat and her baby. That's actually his mother as well from last year. He just didn't have enough weight on him going into that cold spell, and no matter, he had a good appetite. He ate every time I fed. He ate hay all day long. He just did not have enough strength to make it through the Arctic blast. So not everyone was okay. We did have one casualty. Okay, the dryer washer going in the back. This is much better. I'm going to, that's a shadow. I'm going to have to borrow my daughter-in-law's handheld carpet cleaner, take this gate down, and clean right there. So daughter-in-law, hook me up. Okay, I'm gonna make some muffins. Just quick, easy muffins. We have sugar, flour, salt, cinnamon, baking powder, milk, oil, eggs. Real simple. But this video is not about muffins. We're gonna talk about goats. So, how did we go from 0 goats to 40 goats? We moved out to this property about 13 years ago, and we had chickens. We had chickens when we lived in the small town near us. We brought them with us. There was a lot of cleanup that had to be done on this property. About a year after we moved out, we built our first structure. And we built a 20 by 20 chicken coop. Chicken coop, in case you didn't hear that. That's the only structure we had for a while. A few years after we had been here, we decided that we needed to clear some brush. Most of our property is wooded. So someone suggested goats, and I did not want goats. I said, no, I don't want goats. They'll jump on my car. But we got goats. My son got 2 little goats from a woman who had bought them at a sale, and her husband said, no, we're not having goats. So she sold them. And then we got 2 boar goats, a doe and a buck. The buck died the next spring. It was a really, really wet spring. There was a huge flood, and he just, I guess he had eaten something with mildew on it. We woke up one morning, he was turning in circles. I looked it up, and he had to be put down. The 2 little sale barn goats, we lost the little girl. They were real wormy when we got them, and the little boy pulled through, the little girl did not. So we had brought in 4 goats, and we lost 2. So I just dug into the research. I wanted to learn all I could about goats, because I did not want another goat to die. So I learned a lot about boar goats. It was apparently a breed that was developed very quickly, and they're great meat goats, but developing them so quickly bred out some of the better traits as far as being parasite resistant and things like that. So we had 2 goats. A couple months later, our doe boar goat had a kid. She was bred before the buck died, and we didn't know. And so she had a kid, and single little doeling. And then a few months later, my son bought a Spanish buck. He was from an organic goat farm, and he had injured his legs and needed antibiotic, and so he couldn't be listed as organic anymore. So my son got him for a very good price. So the next year, Nanny, our boar doe, and her doeling both had kids from the Spanish buck. They had triplets. So we went from 3 goats to 9 within a week. And so it was right before a super, super cold snap. We were 10 to 17 below 0 for well over a week. I think we got to 20 below several times. So one of the kids from each doe had to be a bottle baby, and we sold those. We had those for several years. So Nanny, her first kid, let me back up a little bit to how we started with goat milk. So Nanny, her first kidding was a single, and she was only nursing on one side. She would not nurse on the other side no matter what we did. So Nanny's udder was huge. I didn't want her uncomfortable, so I milked her on that side. And we realized we love goat milk. So at that point, you know, we bought in a few goats here and there. We raised kids, and our goal was milk. And so we did that. We tried several full-blood dairy breeds, which I'll talk about in another video, but we're not going to do that anymore. So we had a few goats, and we had goat milk. And then recently, my son, who has a property near us, started buying meat goats. So he can have a herd of meat goats. We can have a herd of dairy goats. And they are here now at our place until spring. We are fortifying some fence on the bottom of our property. He is fortifying some fence on his property because there were a few escapes. So we definitely don't want that. That's how we got to a large number of goats. So last month we had 42 goats. The bottle babies came from one of those goats. My son bought this goat knowing that she wasn't necessarily going to be a long-term part of our herd, but she was pregnant. And she was stocky, you know, she was a good meat goat. And so she had her babies. She didn't have milk. And so, long story short, we have bottle babies. Now, we took her to the butcher. And we just got the meat back from her a couple of days ago. We have not tried goat meat yet. We've never eaten goat meat. Maybe I'll do a video on that. We'll try it soon. But we're gonna have goat meat for the first time, and so we can actually tell people what it tastes like if they're interested in buying a goat for meat. So last month we had 42 goats. This month, after we took her to the butcher and we sold a handful, we have 36 goats. And like I said, in the spring, the meat herd will move to our son's property near us, and then we'll just have our dairy herd here again. That's how we went from 0 goats to 40. Everything just sort of happened. We didn't plan much of it. We just wanted some goats to clear brush, and then we realized we loved goat milk. It just rolled up so quickly. I'm not making muffins. I need to get busy. Let's see. A tablespoon of baking powder. Forgot my tablespoon. Okay, let's get this in here. I didn't think I could do 2 things at once. Tablespoon of cinnamon. And making any type of dough or anything, usually what you do is you mix the dry ingredients together, and then you mix the wet ingredients together, and then you put the 2 of them together. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so where were we in the goat story? So I would like to do a few other videos about what we've learned about goats, because there are a lot of channels out there that talk about goats. and I have listened to a lot of them. I've watched a lot of them. I love many of them. But we have learned some very hard lessons with goats. So I would like to do some videos sharing with you what we've learned. Maybe, hopefully, someone can learn something from them and avoid some of our horrible mistakes. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, please. And I'm gonna finish these muffins and go do chores. If you guys have any suggestions on types of videos, what would you like to know about goats? I already planned to talk about hoof trimming, kidding, what we use for our goats as far as medication. We did have pink eye for the first time this year, or well, in 2023. We had pink eye for the first time in our herd. We've never had that before. So we did some more learning. Let me know if you guys have ever had pink eye in your livestock. It was terrible. We're still fighting the tail end of it, trying to make sure it's completely out of the herd.